says attach the threading tool to the quick change tool post. Adjust tool to the center line of the work and perpendicular with a center gauge. We got two things we're checking here. Looking from above, we want to be sure the tool is 90 degrees to the work, 90 degrees to our spindle. I can take a look at it here, see that it is not perfect, it's almost there. Right? So that's good, and we would loosen this nut if we needed to, and we could rotate the tool post. The other point they want us to check is the height of the tool on the work. If we're looking from the tailstock end, and we're looking at a circle, this tool should come into the work right about 9 o'clock on the circle. It does that, and it's going to do the cut we want. It's possible that moving this, when the tool post holder is loose, a little bit up or a little bit down might improve the thread. But in theory, this should be right on the same horizontal plane as our center line for our spindle. Okay, next step, step 11. Check the setup to see that you can move the carriage to both ends of the threads and not run into something. This is set a long way from the chuck, which is fine. Coming this way, we're not going to run into anything. Going the other way, we have to make sure we can clear the end of the work here, while at the same time the entire carriage is not running into the tailstock. We need to have some space in here. If you don't do that, the carriage under power can actually just push that out, and then it's not doing the job it's supposed to. So we have that clearance that we're looking for. Okay, number 12 says start the lathe spindle, advance the tool into the right end of the stock until it scratches the surface. Zero your dial. We zeroed it for cutting this notch. That was a different tool. We want to zero it again so we have reference as we're threading. That's our little thread, our little locking knob. Right now I have that loose. So I turn on my spindle. I'm watching my tool itself, and I'm watching for it to scratch that surface. Feeding very slowly because I don't want to bump into the work. Okay, I've got my scratch mark. That's going to be my zero. So I turn my dial to 0. And then I lock it. While I'm doing that one, the dial on the compound also gets zeroed. This one doesn't have a lock like the compound. It's against its own spring. And I zero that one. Now while we're threading, the cross slide is going to be either at 0 where it is right now, or it will be exactly one full turn back so that we're clear of our work. I'm scratching, works, I'm zeroed, I'm going to take it out that one full turn. And I stop there. My next step, number 13, move past the end of the stock, advance the tool 2/1000ths on the compound. Okay, I'm going to move to the end, be off the work. I need to move this back in that one full turn. And it says advance this 2/1000. As we're threading, remember this is at 0 or it's one full turn back. This one is where we're going to keep adding depth to get our thread deeper and deeper and deeper each time. Step number 14. You're ready for your trial cut. Engage the half nut lever, that's our short one, when the marks on the thread dial line up. On ours, we're going to do this only once, and then we're going to be backing our spindle and using it that way. But you can see our thread dial going around. We're going to wait for that number to come around to our mark, and then we have to anticipate it just a little bit and slip it into gear as soon so they mesh. Okay, we're there. We're taking our first cut. You can see our thread. When I reach that notch, I'm going to lift up on my clutch and stop everything. That was my first pass. You can see what our bluing did for us. See how that worked out? This is the point where we need to remain focused. We need to get into the zone, as it were, so that we can do the repeat and not make any mistakes along the way. We finished our first pass. We now come out on our cross slide, exactly one full turn. My tool is clear of the work. I want to back up to my starting position, so I do that by lifting my clutch lever, running my spindle and my gearbox backwards, and wait for the tool to get past the end of the work. If your tailstock were too close, it would start pushing it. Okay, I'm back in my start position. Come back in exactly my one full turn. And I take 2 or 3 thousandths more on my compound, adding depth. I'm going to take several passes and watch my thread develop. After I do that, I'm going to start using my cutting oil to lubricate it during that cut. Okay, I've made several good passes over the same spot. Everything's working as it should. I can start making passes with my cutting oil. That'll increase the quality of my cut. Before long, our passes will make those blue bands between our threads get narrower and narrower. We're going to get to a point where the blue almost goes away and these things start looking like real threads. At that point, we'll be stopping the spindle, moving the tailstock out of the way, moving the compound and the carriage out of the way, and we'll take a nut and try and screw it on, because we're getting close to where our final threads are. See me for the nut? we're cutting right-hand threads, you'll have a right-hand nut for that job. It will stay with your spindle once you fit it. And we'll flip things and do the left-hand nut. We'll come back when we have some more of these threads cut at a greater depth, and before we start fitting the nut, we're going to do a little bit of filing to take the sharp peaks off of those threads. We'll start that again in just a moment. Okay, we stop there. What I can do is